Hola guys, and welcome back. I'm Diego, and we're back in our Agrarian Skies world. Now, as you remember last episode, we went over pretty much everything else that I've updated since the episode before that. Again, I do apologize for having the two update videos that just kind of happened. But at any rate, now that we're back in here, I've actually turned off all of my machines just to try and help with the frame rate. It actually does help quite a bit. I still get some spikes, but hopefully this will make it a little bit easier for you guys to watch. And I have already gone ahead and made the Steelworking Into book, and I've also gone through it, so I do have a general idea of what I'll be working with here. But first and foremost, we're actually going to start with the quest book, and we're going to look at the Steelworks, the steel-powered flight section. We're going to start with the Steelworks quest. All we have to do is manually submit the book, which I have to take out of the book binder first, of course. There we go. And now we have the option to choose between graveyard soil or yellorium dust. Now, I'm not sure which one we really want to go with, so I'm just going to pick yellorium dust. Go with that, and it gives us the book back, of course, so we do have it. Get a good bag. 2 elevators, that's not bad. I've already got a few of those, so I don't really need more, but it doesn't hurt, I suppose. Now let's take a look at the next 2 quests. The first is a high oven hijinks, which wants us to create the high oven. Now the high oven is actually very similar to the smeltery in its shape, well, it's similar to it in the fact that it's a multi-block structure. If you're familiar with the coal ovens or coke ovens or whatever they're called from Railcraft, they look pretty much the same as that. They work the same way as the blast furnaces and whatnot. We don't have that in Agrarian Skies, but that's kind of what you're going to be looking at shape-wise at any rate. So I have to go ahead and make a few of these. Now the high oven pieces, and let me just go ahead and look in here. Let's flip through this real quick while I'm talking. We do have to make those few things there. So see, that's what it'll look like. It's a 3x3 by whatever. Has to be at least 3 tall, and it can be up to 8. It can be taller, but it doesn't need to be taller, apparently. Some things like oxidizers, reducers, and purifiers. Now, those are all different things that you can use, but I really haven't gotten into it that far. So to make steel, as you'll probably see later on, we're going to have to use this recipe to make steel and pig iron. But the most important one that we're worried about right now is the scorched brick recipe. Now, I do believe this is actually done within the actual high oven itself, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look and see what we can do. Ah, yes, here we go. We do have another recipe as well, and that's a casting basin with a brick inside and seared stone poured on top, or you can do bricks and seared stone poured on top as well. So there are multiple ways of making these different options here. I'm not going to flip too far into the book just because it does get a little bit complicated, or not a little bit complicated, but it gets a bit ahead of where the quests want us to be. Let's check 3 Mile Island. It needs a graphite bar and yellorium dust. Reactors are the perfect late game power source, so it looks like we're going to be starting on reactors soon. Alright. Yeah, so this should be fun. We're going to be doing some very interesting things with reactors in the near future, hopefully. So I will be back once I've made some stuff for the high oven, and I might work on making the graphite as well. See you guys in a bit. Alright guys, so I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of progress on the high oven section. As you can see, we have some seared stone in the smeltery. Now, like I mentioned before, it's just putting cobblestone in here, smelting it down. Now, 1 piece of cobblestone only equals 8 millibuckets worth of seared stone. So obviously it's a little bit inconvenient to do it 1 cobblestone at a time. I believe I can fit a little over half a stack of cobblestone in there, or a little less than half a stack perhaps, but at any rate, one thing you can do instead is actually compress the cobblestone into the triple compressed or the double compressed or even higher, whatever you'd like. And when you throw them in here, they take the same amount of time to smelt as a normal cobblestone does. So it doesn't add any additional time, but you get a lot more for that amount of time. That's how I've got my 64 stacks, my 64 blocks worth. Now, in order to, yes, I do have to do it with this one. It's not 100% clear exactly how to make the seared bricks, so I'm pretty sure this is the recipe you have to go through. It is. Okay, well that means that I have to break these. And I'll have to make a couple more of these. So I'll be back once I've got a couple more casting tables. Alright, so as you guys can see, it jumped from 64 to 158 blocks. Now that little millibucket at the bottom, that kind of resets every time you use up one block. So this actual size in here isn't 100% accurate. For whatever reason, the way they chose to do this, it doesn't 100% accurately represent what you're looking at, but there's not really any way around that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and quickly store this stuff here, because I don't need it at the moment. And I'm going to go ahead and make some more of these scorched bricks. I'll be back. Alright, so I've gone ahead and made myself 51 scorched brick. As you can see, we're still sitting at 155 blocks worth of seared stone and 112 millibuckets. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and try to make myself the 100 blocks of seared stone for the hoarding quest, just since I've already got all that stuff in there. And I'm also going to go ahead and finish off a couple crafting recipes here, so I'll be back in a couple seconds. Alright guys, so I've gone ahead and I've finished making the scorched drain, the scorched bricks, the high oven controller, and the scorched duct, I should say. The recipes are pretty much the same as when you make these for the smeltery. So if you're not familiar with those, it is listed in the Steelworking Indie book for the high oven, and in the materials in you and the mighty smelting by the other for Tinker's Construct specifically. So let's go ahead and take a look in here. Oops, I'm the wrong one here. Steel-powered flights. So we've finished the high oven hijinks. We can go ahead and claim some stuff. Now I'm going to claim the scorched bricks. We know that the graveyard soil is used for some other things, but I would like to be able to make this bigger, and this allows me to do so without having to go through a whole lot of extra trouble. So let's take a look at the next couple quests we have here. First we have the steam room. It's an awesome power. It can be fitted dynamos, steam turbines, or big reactor turbines. Steam is produced by pumping water into a high oven and using charcoal to heat it. Then drains move the steam into deep tanks for storage or directly into a device that can use it. So it looks like we can actually store ourselves some steam. We'll probably go ahead and do that in a short bit here. Let's take a look at the other one, the 3 Mile Island. I believe I just need the graphite bar, which I think I can do fairly easily. The deep tank, it just needs a deep tank controller, and I can do that. It's literally just 8 pieces of scorched brick surrounding 1 piece of lapis, I do believe. And you can't, I forget if you can store, yes, okay, so they are capable of storing multiple fluids, however, they won't combine into different alloys. So if you're one of those people who likes to, constantly make the different ores and try to store them as liquids just for whatever reason, but you're worried that they're going to turn into or they're going to combine, for example, in the smeltery, they automatically combine. This is a way of getting around that as well. I believe you can actually smelt down things using the high oven. I could be mistaken, but I know at least with the smeltery, if you smelt things out and immediately output them into a deep tank, it'll prevent them from combining. So you can keep them in their liquid forms, and you can actually do all your processing that way. That's just one thing I thought I'd mention. Then we've got the heavy armor, which just requires making steel, so that shouldn't be difficult. Now we do need to get some charcoal before we can really use the high oven. Then the up, and away, splat. Leadstone jetpack, so that shouldn't be too difficult, I don't think. Now, it does look like we do have the ability to get a few different methods of flying, but I think we're going to start. Some potato. I think we are going to start with this quest here. At any rate, I will be back in a few moments. I'm still working on collecting some seared stone, as you can probably see in the bottom right. Alright guys, welcome back. I do have myself a graphite bar that's just made by smelting coal in any sort of furnace. It's fairly easy to do. I've also got my 100 seared stone, so I'm going to go ahead and complete both of those quests. First, I'm going to do for the hoarding, just because. Blacksmith blocks, we're going to manually submit, and let's pick the one on the left. Good and an epic, oh boy. This should be good. Alright, now I'm actually going to quickly dump all of this in here. just because I personally prefer to have a very empty inventory when I do these. Alright, let's see what we get. Useful reward. Other tunic with all the protections on it. From the epic bag, I don't know. I personally don't think that was all that great. Mutton jerky, yeah, well, I guess. I mean, I'm going to need armor soon anyway, so I guess I really can't complain. It's not that bad. So let's go ahead and fire these in there. I'm not sure why my frame rate's dipping here. It's probably because I've got YouTube open in the background. And as well, we also want to quickly finish off the steel-powered flight 3 Mile Island. Just manually submit those. And we get to choose between plutonium ingots, yellorium dust, rutile ore, and nether uranium ore. Now, I'll admit I'm not 100% familiar with all of these different ores. I know I can get into the nether to collect uranium, so I think I'm going to go with rutile just because of the fact that it looks like it might be in the end, and I really don't want to go there yet, if I can at all, to be honest. I'd really rather not. So we're going to take the rutile ore. I'm pretty sure plutonium can probably be made otherwise. Claim this. We're getting ourselves a good bag. Let's try that again. Advanced drawbridges. I am okay with this. That's actually really cool. Now this, actually, a yellow heart canister, something I should talk about, I suppose. We do have a few different spots over here. These are for red hearts, these are for yellows, and I believe these are for either green or blue. These are added by Tinker's Construct, I do believe, yes. And they do actually increase your health by a small amount. Now, I know previously you did used to... Okay, so it doesn't work that way anymore. You used to have to collect all of the red ones before the yellow ones would actually implement. It appears the yellow ones just work automatically by themselves now. As well, there are a few other things on the screen here on the armor page. You can see there's kind of like a backpack that's actually for a knapsack, which I believe you can make, which gives you another inventory worth of items. Iron tough rods. So see, it's not really all that bad. In all honesty, the recipe's fairly cheap, and it's pretty worthwhile getting, if you ask me. Tinkers. Can never do it right that way. Okay, Tinker's Construct. Let's take a quick look through here and see what we've got, because I know there are a few different things in here that we may want. Not right now, obviously, but they have been in the process of adding in some new items. They haven't finished adding them in yet, it appears. Yeah, so it is green, and green heart. You can collect these. I forget exactly where you collect them. I believe they mostly drop from mobs and such. And it doesn't look like they've quite finished. Doesn't look like they've quite finished adding in the new items. But they are at some point going to be adding in what appears to be a face mask, probably a belt, and I think this might be an armband. I'm not entirely sure. I know that the knapsack, unfortunately, at least I don't think it adds in and visual. I could be wrong. No, it doesn't. Okay. But it does give you an additional tab, as you can see. It gives you a whole nother thing there. So I'm just going to delete that because I don't actually have one yet. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the rest of the quests we have here, and I'll be back in a few moments. Alright guys, we're back here. We finished the deep tank. Like I said, the recipe is just these 8 scorched bricks in a chest shape with a lapis in the middle. I'll go ahead and claim this reward. Now, since it doesn't link anywhere, the only other ones that we have to do are the jetpack, the steel armor, which requires building the high oven, as well as the steam room, and actually there's a reactor warm-up that I didn't show you guys earlier, but it's basically craft all the things you'll need for the reactor. I will be doing that as well. So first and foremost, I'm actually going to go ahead and get these different machines set up. First the high oven, and then the deep tank, and then we'll be good to go. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright guys, welcome back. We're down in the basement right now. Now, as you can probably remember, we just finished off doing the deep tank and the high oven hijinks quests. I haven't worked on the reactor warm-up as of yet, but we are going to do the heavy armor quest, which is just making steel, which isn't very difficult. If we take a quick look at the steelworking and U book, I'll just flip through here until we dig up the steel recipe, which is iron, charcoal, I believe that's gunpowder, redstone, and 2 pieces of sand. Now, something that I haven't shown you guys as of yet, I just want to double check my music's still down. Okay. So something I haven't shown you guys as of yet, and there is a reason I keep facing this wall. Something I haven't shown you guys yet is the actual physical setup of the deep tank and the actual high oven itself. Now this 3x3 structure here, it's a little bit difficult to differentiate it between it and the bottom, but this, and this, and this, and this, etc. This kind of 3x3 square here makes up the high oven. And as you can see, it roughly works out the same way as on screen as far as I can tell. If we throw this in there, I believe that's all that we need. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of research, not entirely sure why that's not working, but first, like I said, I did just want to show you guys this. This is the high oven, and this below it is actually the deep tank invalid structure. So apparently it's not quite correct. Maybe I need to get rid of this stuff. It was working fine before. You know what it probably is? It's probably these. At any rate, the structure itself has to be an odd number around. Yeah, it's probably detecting that there's something not quite right with this section on the outside. I just threw these on here to try and make it easier for me to get up. But it has to be a flat section of the scorched bricks on top, and it also has to be a flat section of scorched bricks on bottom, and then on for however tall you make this, I only had room to make it this tall. I might make it one deeper by digging out the floor in a little bit, but for now, this is as deep as I need it, and it just needs glass on the sides, and then glass on the floor, and I believe the top is supposed to be solid. Pretty sure the picture shows it being solid, so let me just quickly double check that for the tank. I lied, the top is supposed to be glass. Alright, well I will be back once I've fixed up the top. So it's probably not this that was screwing it up then. But at any rate, I only need this. There we go, that section. That's the only part I actually need. So I'm going to fix the top, just fill it in with glass there, just so I can, just so that it recognizes that it's a proper structure. And once I've done that, I will be back and we will craft ourselves some steel. Alright guys, welcome back. So I've slightly remodeled things here. I did fix the issue with this, so now it thinks it's empty. And I did just add in a little walkway here out of the same material. It doesn't affect the actual blocks as long as the multi-block structures themselves are in place. This doesn't affect them working correctly or anything like that. And with the high oven controller, do make sure you have a lever or some sort of redstone signal connecting to this specific block itself. I tried placing mine on the back, and unfortunately it didn't actually work the way I was hoping it would. Okay, so now it is supposed to work from any side, but for some reason it wasn't. So if we check this, we can see that the charcoal is currently going down, the temperature in the high oven is going up, and we have everything we need. We have the gunpowder, redstone, sand, as well as the iron ingots in the left, which should give us steel at some point. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure if this gives us liquid steel or if this gives us actual steel. We'll have to wait and see. I do know that, for example, if I flick this off, the temperature is, well, rather once the charcoal stops, it will drop temperature very, very quickly. So in this case, we do want to make sure that we do leave it running until it's smelted it. So I don't know what the maximum temperature is, but I will be back once we've got ourselves some steel, or once it's, well, yeah, pretty much once we've got some steel or we've seen some sort of change, then I'll be back to let you guys know what's going on. Also, on a side note, guys, just while we're waiting for a few things to finish loading here, or rather while I'm waiting for the steel, I came over here just to try and figure out what was dropping my FPS, and I figured out it appears to be the infested leaves. I hopped into creative mode and flew around. Typically, if your FPS is affected only when you're facing certain directions, for example, right now, if I face this way, I get roughly between 30 to 60, If I face this way, I can get anything less than that, and it tends to bounce around, especially if I'm moving. Obviously, it does affect me when I'm near it, but especially when I'm over in my actual base, as soon as I face towards this general area, it seems like it starts to act up. And if I'm flying around, let me just show you guys here. If I fly around, it's difficult to see when I'm recording because it tends to cap my frame rate to a specific set. But over here, I have no problems maintaining 30, no problems maintaining 30, and I can fly around, and when I get over here, it does drop a little bit, just because it's got to load all of this area, but once everything loads, there really isn't much of an issue. It tends to sit right around 30 as well. It's a little bit lower, but it's fairly standard. As soon as I face this way, though, it tends to drop right off. Now, you guys might not be seeing this, but on my end, I do see the FPS bouncing around. So if you do have infected leaves just sitting around and your FPS is kind of lower than expected, try getting rid of them and see if it helps. I haven't gotten rid of mine yet, but I have noticed that it does seem to help out quite a bit, at least in terms of making sure that this isn't going to be a problem in the long run. So anyways, guys, just want to let you guys know that, and we'll be back in a moment to take a look at the steel. Alright guys, just a quick update. It's been a few minutes now. As you can see, we've gone through what I would say is a considerable amount of charcoal, and we have yet to do anything else with the iron or, well, really any of the rest of it. I don't know if it's smelting all of the iron at once or if it's just doing one piece at a time. I'm really hoping it's doing it all at once, to be honest. But it is at 1000 degrees Celsius, so it is as high as it goes currently. As well, I do want to address something else with the FPS issue that I mentioned before. Like I said, the infested leaves did seem to be having somewhat of an effect. I did get rid of them, and it did actually help considerably, at least from what I found. But one other thing that I did notice almost immediately that seems to be causing me problems were barrels. I had a large number of barrels over here, if you guys remember, which had a lot of information on them. For example, I had all the different images on it, as well as sets of numbers just to say how much was in there. Even though it was a 0, it was pretty consistent and had a lot of information. With that was another thing that seemed to help out with reducing my frame rate issues. And the last thing that I've noticed that seems to be a big issue, I mean, obviously a mob grinder that's constantly running is a little bit of an issue, just entities-wise, but outside of that, the last thing is actually up here. When I'm facing this way, I have no frame rate problems whatsoever. I mean, it does spike every so often, but it's not really bad. It only happens every so often. I'm running at 30 to 50 FPS right now. If I turn here and I face this way, this set with all the crucibles, as well as this set with all the crucibles, tends to drop my frame rate down to about 15 to 25. It seems that the crucible system, or at least the process of the crucible smelting down, also seems to affect FPS as well. So I did want to address that, just so if you guys seem to be having any issues, if you find a way to get away from this, I know you can do a endothermic pump in the nether. That's one way of getting away from this system. It's certainly more efficient, and you can pump it in and store it all in your system here, and you don't have to worry about it as much. I might turn that off or get rid of it or something at some point, just to get rid of some of my lag issues here. But I did want to just address that and show you guys that that is something that does happen. Obviously, it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, and it's not necessarily something you can get around. But if you have a low-end computer and you're running into FPS issues, that is something you can, actively try and avoid and prevent. So anyways, let's take a quick look here and see if we've made any progress, and then, yeah, so we've made a couple notches of progress. I'm going to go get some more charcoal, fill this back up, and I will be back once our steel has smelted. Alright guys, I'm back again. Now, I did want to mention something that I did actually realize. I had to do a bit of research on this myself. Once this hit 1000 degrees, I noticed that it wasn't actually finishing the smelt. It was getting about 75% of the way through the iron, but it wasn't actually finishing it off. And I realized, after doing, like I said, a little bit of research, it turns out that the bar on the left is actually tied to the temperature. That bar has to reach the top, which typically represents the iron's melting point. Obviously, its melting point is a little higher than 1000 degrees Celsius, and in order to increase that, you don't actually have to use different materials inside of it. You simply have to increase the height of the oven. Now, like I mentioned before, you only really need to go up to 8 tall at most, but you can go as tall as you want. I didn't realize that was originally, or at least I originally didn't realize that was tied to the internal temperature. But as it turns out, the taller it is, the larger or the higher the internal heat is, and the better this is going to work for you. So I did go ahead and increase the height by 1. It's just 1 tall. If I break this, you can see that. It just kind of sticks out from behind, so it doesn't really interfere with the looks of anything, but it does. It should hopefully increase the temperature enough so that it can actually smelt the steel. I'll be back as soon as I've verified that, but I did just want to let you guys know it is tied to the height, so if you want to make sure you're safe, I would recommend making it 8 tall. Then you don't have to worry about any different materials you do end up using, and that way you can make sure that it smelts nice and quickly. Obviously, it will take a long time to build up that kind of heat in here, but you know, just so you're prepared. Anyways, I'll be back once we've got our iron smelting into steel. Alright guys, welcome back. As you can see, we've now got it up to 2000 degrees Celsius, it appears. Every block you add adds 1000 degrees, and as you can see, it's now smelting the iron, so obviously the higher it is, the faster this would go. I've got about 19 ingots worth of iron, and since I've got my scorched drain in the faucet here, I can just right click that, drop it into a scorched drain on the tank, and it appears it automatically drops it in. Now I don't know how much this can hold, but it looks like it can hold a considerable amount. So I'm gonna let that fill in here, and I actually wanted to try something. I don't know how well this is gonna work, but I want to try pouring this out. So it is slowly pouring out. There we go. Okay, so it's finally done that. Let me hop down here and see. We should have 21 ingots. Okay, so if we right click this, it should let us pour this out into the casting basin. And it will give us a block of steel. Beautiful. All right. So that means that this is going to be very, very easy for us to deal with. Now, there's 2 different things I can do here. First and foremost, I could leave this with a faucet, as it is right now. But what I think I'm going to try to do is convert this over to use a fluid duct to extract the liquid steel. Reason being, if it can extract liquid steel, it will automatically do so and pump it into the deep storage, and as well, it'll automatically do the same thing down here. It'll just automatically fill this up. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up, and then I will be back once I've got all the steel that it will need to continue here. Alright guys, welcome back. So this will probably be the wrapping up point for this episode. I know I said I was going to try and do the rest of the Steelworks, but just with some of the other things I've kind of thrown in here, I do want to not drag this on too long, as well as it is getting fairly late. This has been pretty much an all-day episode, actually, just because I've had other stuff going on, playing some other games as well as during some breaks. I just entertained some friends and whatnot. But one thing that I want to show you guys just before we're done here is how I've got this set up. So, like I mentioned before, I've got the fluid duct set up here. You right-clicked it with a pneumatic servo, which gives it the ability to turn it on automatically. Right now, it's just set to be on all the time, ignoring redstone signals, and it will extract anything out of the high oven controller. Alright, now I've also got it turned off so it doesn't burn up all my charcoal and it just loses its temperature, as you can see. I'm not overly worried about it keeping the temperature right now, but if at any point I do need it to stay up higher, I'll probably try and automate a little bit of it, but like I said, it's not really a big deal. For now, it's okay for it to act like this. Now, like I said, this will automatically extract any liquid, so even if you're not making steel, if you're making nether quartz or something like that, it will automatically extract it and put it into our deep tank down here. And as well, I've also got these set up. Now, I did do these manually just because I don't want it to automatically dump everything into these things. For example, if I only have 6 ingots worth, I don't want it dumping it into a casting basin. That's a waste. I can do this by hand and do it this way. So I'm going to check to see how much I have here once it finishes filling that. Alright, so we have 11, so we have enough to make 1 more, and then 2. So we'll grab our ingots, grab the 1 block of steel, and we're going to convert everything over. We'll grab the last block of steel there. We'll double check. It's really hard to tell, but it doesn't appear that we have any left over. We've got 32 pieces of steel. I believe that should be enough by my calculations. I'm pretty sure that's all you really need. So let's go ahead and see if we can craft ourselves the armor. Alright, so we got the helmet, chest plate, steel leggings, and the boots. Awesome. So it looks like we've finished that up there. I'm just going to go ahead and dump the rest of this material into the system just because I don't need it all right now. Let's go into the quest book, and we will claim our reward. So we'll just dump that in there. We're going to take the basic bag that we got, and 12 angel blocks. I mean, that's not bad for a basic bag, obviously. Alright, there we go. So guys, like I said, that's pretty much all we're going to cover for today. We did cover how to get steel, which is the big key feature here that I wanted to get over. 62% of that's complete. The next stuff we're going to take a look at will be the jetpack, which I don't think is too complicated. Let me take a quick look here, just to get an idea. Yeah, leadstone jetpack requires leather tunic, some lead, a leadstone flux, and a... Oh yeah, that's not bad. I could probably craft that now if I wasn't going to hold off until later. But like I said, that's really not that bad considering all things. I don't know why this keeps moving around. But at any rate, we'll probably do the jetpack next episode as well as the steam room. We'll work on creating steam and things like that. Alright, so it looks like steam in a high oven will make, or water in a high oven will make steam. So we'll probably look into doing something like that. Changing up our power system instead of using lava, try and switch over to steam instead. It would be a little bit more functional, I personally think, as well. It does appear that is kind of the intended method of collecting power. For those of you who aren't aware, they did kind of restructure all of the quests mainly for that purpose. They start you with a learning to sky block, get you set up with the power system. Then they get you Hell's Kitchen, which gives you all your food. And with steel powered flight, it teaches you, 1, that you can fly, and 2, it gives you the ability to get slightly more powerful tools, but really that's not an issue at this point. It just allows you not to have to waste certain materials on other things. And it also gives you the ability to get more power. After that, of course, bees and trees requires a lot of time, so that's something you want to start early on, but not too early, obviously. And then you're a wizard, Steve. That's something that's going to require some different materials and time as well. For the hoarding, go with the flow. Those are all quests that require a lot of time and just different systems set up to run. So for the most part, we're probably going to try and finish off the steel-powered flight next episode, and I'll probably either do Hell's Kitchen at the beginning, just kind of showcase what exactly it went over, or just complete it on my end. And again, bees and trees, it's something that I've been meaning to do with Lord, but we really haven't had time to get together and work on it, so I might just start it on my own time here and just kind of showcase what we've been doing. At any rate, thank you guys for watching. I've been Diego, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.